Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi.
Hivin with Dr. BB, and today we have How Do You Coach? So this is our program for today, and we will be talking to Simone Sloan. She is a woman with so many things around her that it's like an aura. And she is a perfect coach to talk to. And I would love to get into a whole lot of, real discussion on coaching with her. So this attention here, concentrate on this program. This is going to help all those people who are looking for a coach and who would really like to understand more about the coaching industry and what it really entails of. So, Simone, let me begin with first introducing you properly. Simone partners with visionary leaders and organizations to build trust, credibility, and connection through executive coaching. And that coaching actually delivers measurable results. The catchword here is measurable. She is an ICF certified coach with credentials spanning DISC, EQI 2.0, Barrett Culture Assessment, Culture IQ, IDI, and Google AI. Simone is a sought after keynote speaker and recognized thought leader who has been featured in Forbes and Pharmacy Times. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy and an MBA from Harvard University and is co author of Leaving Your Legacy, Achieving Results, 30 Days to Courage, and Leadership Without Borders. Oh, there are so many questions that's coming up in my head. You have no idea, Simone. Let's begin with first asking you about how did you move from pharmacy to MBA to coaching?
Sure. Well, Banya, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to have this conversation with you. Um, yeah, that's a really interesting trajectory, right? Because I came from pharmacy and had a really great opportunity to get some technical skills and background in science. It's something that I love. I love science. I love math. I love the technology aspects. And really and truly, I think I just love helping people. And when you're in healthcare, that's kind of like the basis of what you do is supporting and helping people from that perspective. But I also had ambitions and wanted to get on the business side of the industry, and so the MBA was a practical way in which to do that. And once I was able to hone those two skills, it helped me have more credibility in the pharmaceutical industry, which is where I'm from. Not only on the medical side of things because I had the technical abilities, but also too on the commercialization side because now I have the business and now I can marry the technical with business in that arena. And that allowed me to do that and to not only manage my teams, but also do so in transition into global strategy and doing some of those works, being able to present the new findings around the medicines to our stakeholders to ensure that they understood what was happening and they were able to deliver that information. But along the journey, you kind of think about, well, what's your next? And I think that's when I was getting curious around what my next was within the space. That's where coaching found me. And so I did take a year to really hone in on the coaching skills and get certified for that way. And along the way, not only got into ontological, the study of being and how you show up, which is not something that you end up doing in corporate, right? They don't ask you those questions. But then what happened too is that it evolved into emotional intelligence and evolved into cultural competencies in other areas. And so that's where my love of coaching came and developed in honing those skills. And that's kind of propelled me to say, okay, this is how I can serve corporate in a different way, right? So it's all about serving. And I think that's the kind of a mindset that I had going into it to begin with, to enable to work with corporate on different ways and to help them to be successful as leaders and managers.
Okay, so let's get jump straight into when you started doing, because when you started uh, getting your ICF certification, what was your experience? And then why did you then choose to go on and do those further credentials in DISC and EQI and Barrett and so on?
Sure. Um, Well, coming from the mindset that I have to have a license, so I wanted to have to land in a place where it had certifications, had some guide rails, had some sort of governing body around the industry, right? So that was kind of my take on that, and I wanted to have the credibility because the corporations are going to ask, "Are you certified in some way?" Right? And if you come have some kind of if it's not credible enough, they don't really want to work with you, at least in my at that time. Things may have evolved as the coaching kind of evolves, but I think at that time. But also too, I also wanted to develop my skill sets and get some other tools readily available that I can actually utilize within my practice. And so the disc piece came about right from that perspective. And what I liked about it is because you talk about different, everyone has different personalities. And if you don't know how to navigate those personalities, you don't know how to be effective in engagement. And this tool really allows folks to not only understand themselves, what they like, what they don't like, and how they present in the world, but also how do they now look at their teams and sort of help them, not say put them in a box, but identify key things to help them be more effective in communication styles and engagement styles and influencing styles and motivating styles. And that helps them become more effective as teams. So that was one of the reasons why I looked at that. And then with the emotional intelligence, okay, yes, I know the personalities, but then it does take a little nuance in terms of how do you understand yourself, but also when stress takes place we become different beings, right? Human beings. And we don't recognize ourselves at times. And so what really got me interested in that was to understand how do we align that with your executive presence? How do you align that with building your teams? How do you align that with decision making? Because emotions can drive you in so many different ways. And if we're not aware and can't label them, then we're not going to be effective in how we move, right, in the world as well. So those were some of the things that kind of questions that I had around that I wanted to find out. So yeah, I'm going to put something on pause for a moment because I just have to get my phone. Hold on. Sorry about that. Okay. Hopefully you can edit that part out.
Yep, I'll do that. I think that's much better, editing it out.
Yeah, just edit it out. Sorry.
Yeah. Ah,
Okay.
so let's go to the absolute fundamentals and understand what does DISC tell. I mean, I'm taking it that my audience may not know what is DISC all about, or what is EQI all about, or what is Barrett Culture Assessment all about. When should a person look at getting assessed? DISC is almost understood. It is like a personality test, and you try to understand the personality of a person. How is it different from Myers-Briggs? So that's one question that I have first. And then I will ask you, I'll break into each one of them so that we can really get a picture of why these assessments help us, coaches, to understand a person better. And how can that person then apply it in their workplace or at home or family, whatever?
Sure. There's so many tools out there to choose from, right? I mean, a plethora. And you kind of need to think about what your coaching objectives are, what your platform is to enable you to choose where you want to go along, if it's assessments that you want to bring into your practice. So that's the first thing I would say. Because I was all about the study of being, that was the root of my coaching piece. It was around how do you show up, right? And so in understanding how do you show up, it's really enabling them to understand their personality style. So it's not only about me as a coach understanding them, but really the idea is to bring awareness and self-awareness into the coachee. Because if they have no idea how they are presenting, the impact they're having, this is all for naught. And it doesn't help anyone in that case. The idea is to enable someone to get some awareness, aha moments, breakthroughs to enable them to want to intrinsically take action to do something differently. And so these tools are sort of a gateway to enabling the coachee to do that. The disc, yeah, personality, right? Yes. And I think Myers-Briggs, because you mentioned Myers-Briggs, and yeah, I think it's like the foundational one. I think it's one of the first ones that ever came through, and they had 16 different personality types that you can play with, right? And it was useful. And I actually had that the experience utilizing that tool back when I was in Europe and actually in France, working with a consulting team at that time. And so got to see how the tool was utilized in a cultural diverse leaders, right, within organizations. So that was really how it kind of fundamentally came about. But the disc is put a disc on top of that, right? I utilize it for communication styles and how do we effectively understanding who we are, be effective in how we communicate with others, engage others, understand what we really like, right, in terms of doing versus what are some of the things that we really do not like. And then you can look at your work and see where your angsts are and where you kind of get deflated around the work, right? And so by pairing that on top of it, you go, oh, that's because I don't really like doing mundane routine tasks. And guess what? 80% of your work happens to be that. Hence the reason why you might be, frustrated a little bit too, and and a paradox is going on within why you're showing up for work and how you're actually showing up as a human. So these are some ways through which that these tools are gateways to help the coachee get that enlightenment around themselves from that perspective. What I like about the Barrett culture, and I got certified through that, and actually it was interesting because my team, they were in Australia and I was in the US. So at 10 o'clock at night, I'm like ready to go to bed, and it was their morning. So, but what I really love about that is when you're talking about a team and culture drives everything, how you get things done. And if there's no alignment in your culture at work in your teams, then everyone's doing different things and being rewarded in different ways, and you've got helter-skelter in your culture. So what I like about the Barrett is it provides a nice vocabulary around culture, a nice way of defining culture, but also defining the behaviors behind that and understanding where you are in an organization and where you want to be, and then some tools, right? And a framework to how do you want to get to where you want to be, your vision for culture. So that's what I like about the Barrett pieces and how you can utilize that collectively as a team.
And how is that different from culture IQ? So is culture IQ for only individuals? Like Barrett can be used in organizations also.
Right. Directly
Yeah.
using the cultural IQ, really how I utilize that are for those individuals who are transitioning into new cultures, right? And not necessarily organizational culture, but from a global perspective. So for example, if you have someone from Asia coming into the US and they have no idea in terms of what this is all about, this helps level set them in terms of understanding the different ways through which values are taken into place, how people behaviors, communications, decision making. It helps them kind of understand the baseline of those things, not necessarily assumptions and judgments, but a guideline in terms of how things get done. Because if you consider, some places are collectively in terms of how they make decision making, some places may be more hierarchical in terms of how decision making flows. Other places may be more independent, right? They shoot from the hip. They all about business first, relationships last. So those are some ways through which we utilize this cultural IQ to enable folks to get more understandings about their cultures and how it might have variances with other cultures globally in different countries.
Right. And this is one even I don't know. What is IDI?
Yeah, IDI is a lovely tool that I also like to use. And when we're doing inclusive leadership, that's when I actually look at utilizing that one, because what it does look at is perceptions, behaviors when experiencing differences. And from that, it has about 5 different ways through which, based upon your responses, and all of these are research-based tools, which is what I love, right? Enables that individual to see where they may fall from if they're more polarized versus if they're more an acceptance scale. And there are various different ways through which to get there. But at the end of the day, it's looking at your unconscious bias. And it's not telling your unconscious bias, but it's showing you the gap, right? And it can be around anything. But that's another way of getting more self-awareness as to how you make decisions when you're engaging with someone. What are some of the thoughts that are coming through that you don't even realize that may be influencing how you decide to work or not work with folks? So that's another way through which to look at perceptions, behaviors when experiencing differences.
Okay, so but both culture IQ and IDI are both for individuals?
Can be for individuals and for teams. So
Oh,
all of these
okay, all
tools,
right.
all of these tools can be for individuals and teams, and how you can even use Barrett, for example, the startup, right? The founder, and if culture is something that it's really of top of mind for them, in addition to the products and services that they're trying to build and get out into the world, it's a great way for them to look at what's important to them as a business. What type of leaders do they want to bring in as part of their team? Who are the people that they want to hire as they grow, right? And it's a nice foundational tool for that founder to then kind of look at the people and see and evaluate what their values are, and really be able to communicate what the company's values are at this point to make sure there's alignment.
Perfect. I get that. But what is Google AI? I thought Google AI is that aligned to a coaching?
Actually, no, it's more of an AI certification. And so for me, again, I love learning and wanted to get more in depth for that. So I took a course with Michigan University that had this tool for Google and enabled us to really get down with LLMs, understand all of these things. I mean, ended up making a medical AI agent, which I'm currently working on and trying to build out even further. So thank you. So it's just my continuous way of learning, because I just love learning and wanting to stay abreast of the new technologies that are available to us as coaches.
Lovely. Do you really want to talk more about your medical agent? Because I'm very curious to know more about it. But if you don't want to talk about it, I'm quite okay and moving
It's
on.
still in
Maybe
its
it is.
it's a novel stage right now. I'm still tweaking and working with it. So once I have it kind of more developed, we can talk.
Okay, so then we have another meeting and we do it another time. So we'll wait till
Absolutely.
then. But there is a
Absolutely.
baby being born, and there's a baby right now in gestation, and we are waiting for it to be born. So fantastic. Let's just keep it there for the moment and surprise, surprise, maybe in a few months' time. And so let's talk about your books. And this is going to really help me as a person because, frankly speaking, I'm trying to write my first book. And I have written some anthologies, been part of a few anthologies, but never written my own book. So this book, this is a co-author. So you were a co-author with somebody else for all the three books or all the
Absolutely.
four
Yeah.
books
I
or
love
yeah, yeah.
collaborations and I love bringing
Okay.
different perspectives in. And so, yeah, so the last book which I really love was Leaving Your Legacy, because I think that's something most leaders do not think about, the impact that they leave. Sometimes it's very in a selfish way in terms of what I can get, right? And then exit. But I think most times, especially within organizations, they're not really thinking about that legacy. What are you leaving behind? And are you making it better than you left it, right? And I think there is a responsibility as managers, as people, as humans, to really think about what is it that we're leaving behind, and we want to make it better than we actually we had it, right, in terms of our shepherdness and guidance around it. So leaving your legacy was what I spoke about was in my chapter was the ability about leaders, because and toxicity and toxic leaders, and the role that the toxic leader has and what they're leaving in the space of the day to day, right? And those little moments that matter, in addition to when they move away, because what they fail to realize is that the managers below them sometimes absorb some of those behaviors, and so they're leaving this legacy of toxicity, and they don't even, and maybe they realize it or don't, right? But it's instilled, and then what happens is that manager thinks that that's the way to go because they saw their manager get promoted, and so they start spreading that toxicity as well, right? And so, but it has negative ramifications that take place. So my chapter was really around the toxic leader, and really having leaders ask themselves, what is it that they want to leave behind? And I have a series of questions that they can go through that talk about not only themselves, but also in terms of the organization as well as for their teams.
Fantastic. And would you like to share about achieving results as well?
That was one of the first collaborations that I did, actually.
Oh,
And
okay.
yes, and it was really around how do we get things done? How do we break goals down so we can actually feel a sense of accomplishment, right? And so that was all my chapter was around, is how do we start achieving results, and various chapters, and what I loved about it too is that you had folks from the marketing world, folks from different industries sharing how they've been successful, all right? And so it enables the reader to take some of those tools and put in their tool belt. I'm all about tool belts. Put tools in their tool belt so they can take a little bit of a something, apply it to their world, and for them to be able to get those results and to get to that finish line.
Yeah, I get that. Yes.
Yeah.
What made you become an author?
Um, Make sure you have something to say that people want to hear.
Yeah. So how did you realize that? Okay, like I'll give you my example. I was I had written academic journal articles and things like that. I had even gone through a book and I had written a book on it as well. So I had edited a book and written, but I believe in collaborations just like you. So I wanted it to have more than my own perspective, and added a few more other authors and wrote a book about workplace well-being and all that. But when it came to non-academic writing, so this is what we are writing here, leaving your legacy, achieving, are all non-academic writing, but they are non-fictional as well. They are not really fictional. So you're writing non-academic and non-fictional, and I had to really go back, learn the style of writing, first write it. The first chapter that I wrote, was extremely difficult because I had to stop thinking like an academic, stop putting references, stop citing and putting in text citations and things like that. But at the same time, write it in a way that was plain English, very easy to understand, and very easy to follow. What did you have to do to become an author?
Absolutely. And I think it's part of that too, because some of the things in my early profession, I did work with the United States Pharmacopoeia, so it was all technical scientific writing. And you do
Yeah.
have to have your sources and you do have to reference research. So definitely from that perspective. But what over time, had to realize to let that go a little bit because I couldn't be as technical as my background allotted for. But in the same breath, how do you communicate at a level that's just enables you to have your say, people resonate, and you can help people in the same process, right? And so that was some of the things in my background thinking, that kind of worked through those moments. And that's where the collaboration piece comes in, because then you have other folks that you can look at, mirror, bounce things off of, right, and get that support and guidance around it, and to help you kind of translate the technical into translatable, right?
Right.
And easy
I
reading.
so agree.
But at the end of the day, I think as you're coaching, you think about your thought leadership and what is it that, like I said, your platform, going back to what is it that you are trying to do within your coaching, and ensuring that everything is aligned in that same vein. And so for me, since it's around people, how people show up, emotional intelligence, DISC, culture, inclusive leadership, those are the topics that I'm writing about, right? And so it's not so helter skelter, but really honing in and supporting my thought leadership around those areas.
Yeah, my next question is on thought leadership. And when did you realize that you have actually transformed into a thought leader and that you had things to share with others?
Hmm. I think that's a really great question. I think when folks start liking your things, like your comment and commenting, agreeing or disagreeing with you, that's when you know you've hit something. There's something there. And then also when you take that writing and translate it into speaking, right? And people want to hear these topics that you're talking about. That's also more validation in terms of your thoughts and people resonating, and then people actually agreeing or disagreeing. You're still thought leadership in those areas, right? So I think that's where the validation came in to really reinforce, continue to speak. And when people say, I like what you said about X, Y, and Z, or I didn't like about what you said, or, they're rumbling. I like when people start rumbling because that means you've sparked something in them.
I totally agree on that, sparking something in them, because it does not always have to be agree. It can also be a disagree. There can be a debate. And I believe debates are one of the best ways of putting through experiential learning, and also learning from each other. So
Absolutely.
I totally believe that debates are very important. And I am nowadays, debates has become a kind of an art which is followed only by certain people and not by everybody, whereas debates should actually be followed by everyone. That is my, that this is my take on it. So
Absolutely.
my
Absolutely.
thoughts.
Absolutely. Well, you have to agree to be able to agree to disagree, have the
Exactly.
respect for the person, right, as a human, to say, you know what, I hear you. I may not go that way, but I hear you. And that's a certain level of maturity that it takes for someone to be able to do that. And I'm not saying you're immature because you can't do it, but I'm saying in terms of your professional maturity in debate, in conflict.
Right. And that is one of the biggest lessons, I think, when I coach, I talk about conflict resolution in this manner, that you get into a debate, understand the person, and then get into,
Absolutely.
understanding where you meet and where you don't meet. If there are gaps you don't meet, you agree that, okay, we don't meet, and just go on.
Absolutely.
How did you get featured in Forbes, and when was it?
Yes. So I belong to a really great organization called Elevate, and they're for professional women organizations and entrepreneurs, and had a platform through which you could actually publish your work through Fortune and through from that perspective from Forbes. So that was one of the ways through which, again, thought leadership, gaining your confidence, and having people like it, share it, reshare it out. So that was a really interesting time as well. So if you have opportunities working with your PR person as well, which is someone that I have as well, to get you featured, to get you the quotes quoted and things of that nature, absolutely embrace that.
Okay, so one question I'll ask you, from a coaches who are coaching coaches, from that perspective, why is personal branding so important for coaches?
Mm. It defines who you are and what you stand for. And it's not just about the logo, colors. I'm talking about deep down your essence of who you are. And because from your essence comes your values, who you decide to work with, not work with. It helps your platform, the communication style, in terms of what is your platform. I'm emotional intelligence. I work with a lot of people who are toxic leaders, right? That's my platform. So I'm looking at those in terms of what are your values, what's your platform, what you're going to be, to enable you then to communicate, step into the behaviors around it because you're modeling it, right? Whether people you realize it or not, you're modeling those behaviors and what your platform and your
Absolutely.
branding looks like. So it's everything. It's everything.
So people who are wanting to be coaches, that's the guideline for you, and why you need to do whatever is needed to get you talking, get you speaking, get you writing.
Love it.
So,
Love it.
so, Simone, tell me, let me ask you a few questions which are more on your, let's go back a little to your background. Let's go back to when you were a child. What are those attributes as a child that you carry with you now,
Mhm.
today, as a coach?
Got it. Well, I'm originally from Jamaica, so I'm going to share that. Um, I think that if you want to run a business, organization is key, right? You have to be very organized in terms of how what you're doing, you're planning your day, working with your coachees. That's paramount. So I think that's something that I bring. So I'm going to talk more about the behaviors that I bring into coaching, because I think that helps with your business. It's a discipline, right? Even on the days when you don't even want to do business development and you're like, oh, not again, you have to be very consistent with the conversations that you want to do, showing up in those networking meetings, all of those things is consistency. So organization and consistency are the key things. And I think the energy that you bring around it, right? You have to be energized about your work. If you don't have the energy and people are like, why do I want to work with you? Your personality is blah, right? So you have the passion and you have to love what you're doing and being able to espouse that onto others. I think it's important as well. So I think those are the three things I would say from that perspective. And I can think about my mom saying, you know, clean your room, do this, stop jumping around, right? So, yeah.
Lovely. I think I have enough nuggets of wisdom to share in this, in this session that we have had together. And there's a lot of wisdom that I think we have shared, and you have definitely given a whole I'll use the word that you used, a plethora of ways of doing things, so that either you want to become a coach, these are the things you need to do, these are the things you need to really think of, the assessments that you need to do. Oh, one question that I would like to ask before I wrap up. I'm so sorry, I'm going back a little, but why is measurable results important in coaching?
Oh, absolutely. If it's not measured, you're not, what are you doing? Right. And I think that that's where the assessments come into play because it gives you a baseline and you're measuring the progress, the activities, what's being done. You're tracking, you're listening to conversations, you're getting feedback, right? So you need all of these metrics to measure because what it gets measured is mattered. And that's what I'm going to say.
Perfect. This is very close to my heart because I believe that measuring something is very important. I think coming with a science background, it really is something that, tunes us to measuring results, and that's where this comes from. I totally agree with you. And
Absolutely.
again, going back to that, again, a new nugget of wisdom that we have just got. So putting all these nuggets together, we have one great coach out here, Simone Sloan, who has just now shared with us a massive amount of knowledge and wisdom, which I hope will help each one of you. With that, we wrap up today's session. Thank you, Simone, for being with us and for being such a lovely guest.
Thank you, Banya, for having me. It's a pleasure.